adventure.
Oh,
Yep. Hey. I'm on. So first off, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any quick announcements here as of yet? Eric has one. You want to wait to read that for, see if we get any late people coming in?
Yeah, but I do have it.
Oh, okay. All right. Eric has an announcement.
If anybody has any plans next Saturday morning, is the Olcott Festival in Olcott. And yours truly is going to be doing another chalk drawing this year. So come on out, support Wahi Studio and Jess. And yeah, so I'm going to be doing King Neptune this year. No James Bond. Is that a shocker? Well, we're trying to make it family friendly. And it's because it's a summer theme. It's a summer theme. So I'm doing King Neptune from SpongeBob. So please come on out and support the studio, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer.
Yeah, presiding officer. Yeah, that's me. All right. Eric had asked me to be inspirational as we had some going back and forth about Steve. I said, okay. So here is my inspiration. Toastmasters, and we have no guests, correct? Great. Nancy's dog. Should we introduce Nancy's dog? Maya. Maya, a little, what is she? Chihuahua Shih Tzu. Pup. Oh, pug. I didn't say pup, not pug. Okay, so she's a mix. What we used to call, now they're calling them designer breeds. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. As Eric serves up today's educational program, let us dig deeper to ace our meeting assignments without fouling or blocking our fellow members. And I will now introduce our Toastmaster, Eric Schneider.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Good morning again. Today, we're serving up some volleyball for you all today. As you know, every Wednesday, we've been doing Celtic volleyball at Calhoun's. And I must say, I have gotten a little better this year, but I have to keep working on not trying to use my own fists because I keep actually punching the volleyball when you're not supposed to. No control. Yeah, thank you, Dave. Yeah, no control. But all you have to do is maybe use two fists or hands. Yes, Dave. Yes, I'll use two hands. And I know I always embarrass myself, but hey, it's fun, enjoyable, relaxing. Maybe take my aggression out of work. And I also know from, I know I see some photos that Tom Moran dressed up as a volleyball player, if I'm correct, or?
It's the person who invented volleyball.
Yeah. William Morgan.
William Morgan, all right. I learned something new today. Little Lockport history. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I bet they, yeah. Moving on.
Eric, can you repeat that? Because anybody on Zoom couldn't hear any of that.
Who was the name again? William Morgan? William Morgan.
Yeah, but what William Morgan what?
Invented volleyball, right? Correct?
Yes,
Thank you.
I do know.
And
that.
he was born in Lockport?
Yes,
And Tom Moran portrayed him repeatedly?
yep.
Okay. When we did historical figures of Lockport.
All right. As I call about job roles this morning, I would like for you all to give us a little bit of a story of if you play volleyball, have an embarrassing moment of volleyball. Any way you guys want to go with it, that's fine. So I would like to invite up our word master, which is Mike Licata. Mike, what is our word today?
Thank you, Eric, your Toastmaster this morning. I sent it to Len, I put it up on the board. Today's word will be rally. It can be used as a verb or a noun. And let me get it. Table. It just means there's a coming together for a common cause or purpose. And that's the word today. You can use it in table topics and throughout the meeting. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mike.
Stepping up to the mound is our grammarian, Steve Smith. Steve, please tell us what your role is today.
Caught me napping. I wasn't quite ready, but okay. Yeah, oh, okay. Today I'm the grammarian. My job is to listen to what everybody says and find fault with it. Good to bad, anything that impresses me, anything that just doesn't sound right here, because I do not claim to be a grammarian. Although we all had this drummed into us in grade school, as most of us remember. And I will report again when he calls me up here to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Our eye master this morning is Sylvia Baptiste. Sylvia.
Morning. Today I'll be listening for the so filler words, kind of really, Riley, whatever. The filler words. And I'm glad I'm a master, so I won't be evaluating myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Our quote master this morning, live on Zoom, is Nancy Rose. Nancy, would you please give us a quote for today?
She's muted.
You're muted, Nancy.
Sorry, everybody, I froze. My computer froze, but good morning. And thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Today, I just have a little quote. It's kind of, think of it as the morning news. And it's good news because everyone has a side of him or her that has good news. The good news is that you don't know how great you can be, how much you can love, and what you can accomplish, and what your potential truly is. Every day it changes. Every day it will be there. You always have potential. Anne Frank. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. Our jester live on Zoom is Phil Russell. Phil.
Good morning, everyone. Well, volleyball, I have three little jokes, but I've got to tell you a real story, but I'll tell you after I tell my first joke. Why are fish bad at volleyball? Anybody know?
Oh, they don't like the net.
Yeah, you're right, Dave. You got it. They're afraid of the net. Second one, I'll save the third one for after my story. Why was Cinderella taken off the volleyball team? She ran away from the ball. Those are sort of funny. But if you see something hilarious, you should have been in my volleyball class at Cortland. We had a physical education school that was top in the country, one of the top ones in the country for education of physical education. Now, that meant you have to try everything you're going to teach in physical education. Okay. Put a bunch of football players, soccer players, baseball players, gymnasts, all these athletes that do everything but that, swimming. Football players are banging their heads against it, banging the ball so hard. Soccer players are kicking it, getting it in. Nobody can hit it. Baseball players, Eric, banging at it like it's a baseball or trying to catch it. That is just insane. But we learned how to play volleyball and we had a ball. And it was hilarious because even the teacher loved that class because we had so much fun with it. So volleyball could be a lot of fun. Now I have the third joke. Where is it? Why couldn't the volleyball player cross the road?
Ooh.
There were too many bumps. Mr.
Oh. Thanks, Phil. Okay, moving on. Our timer this morning is Len Thornton.
Thank you, Eric. My job is timer today. Not a big stretch. I kind of do that anyway. Table topics, and I always forget to correct me now, 1.5 to 2 minutes. Okay, evaluations 2 to 3 minutes. And let's just get this out of the way. Are all 3 speeches 5 to 7 minutes? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Tracy's saying yes. Okay, we're going 5 to 7. I will report as called upon to do so. Mr. Toastmaster.
And thank you. Stepping up for Tech and Gesture Master is Beth Banks.
You may not be really tall, but compared to me, you're tall. Have to bring it down. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, Toastmaster of the day. I will be looking at gestures, seeing tech, yeah, we don't have that much control over the tech. Let's face it. When you're at home and your computer goes, did you have any control over that? No. So yes, we can thank Len for always picking up, but there are things that are just beyond his control. So, but I will be looking at gestures this morning and hoping to rally the troops, right?
Thank you, Beth. Our quiz master stepping up to the plate is Jackie Kenny.
Mr. Toastmaster, I will be listening carefully and taking notes, and I'll have some questions for you at the end. Thank you.
And our general evaluator this morning, I can't forget to mention him in the meeting. David Jones is our general evaluator. David.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. This morning, I will be listening to the meeting as a whole, listening to the Toastmaster of the day and the evaluators and comment on them at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. Now it's time for table topics. Please help me welcome up Thomas Helwine as our table topics master.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I have a frog in my throat. All right. One of the things that I think everyone has in their garage, basement, somewhere is a volleyball set. So the topic today, I was like, I think I've used my volleyball set for some graduation parties, a couple of Labor Day parties. The weather around here really doesn't allow you to bring it out anytime other than like 3 or 4 months of the year. But I think the one reason why we all have one is my story is the greatness of when you bring it out amongst family and friends, there's a fairness. If one team wins 2 games in a row, what happens to that team? The best players are split up. They're taken away from each other. Everything's evened out. And even maybe they have to go get a beer. Like you've won too many, you gotta go. We need the other teams to be able to rally together and, you know, have a little bit more fun, which makes it incredibly fair. Remembering to reuse the word the day rally is sometimes something that we forget. So I'm going to give a little bit of thought time. For the first question for today, continues the idea of fairness. Think of a game that you think is great and fair amongst all the players, kind of like a putt-putt or volleyball, something like that. And talk about playing fairly. So I have to select somebody. Anyone want to volunteer? Dave Licata, of course, wants to volunteer. That's here for Dave.
We have 3 speakers, but I'm the ultimate speaker. I can be 5 to 7 too.
So, 1.5 to 2, okay?
We now take you back. The YMCA in Springfield, Massachusetts. The head of the Y can see winter coming. He's wondering, how am I going to keep these businessmen that come here at lunch to stay in shape? We'll have to figure out a couple games. So he called 2 gentlemen in his office. One gentleman invented mitten net. Mitten net is the original name for volleyball. But when they saw that the game involved so much rallying, they borrowed a term from tennis. Rally is a tennis term where the ball goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for an extended period of time. So they said, well, that's like a volley. So they changed it to volleyball. The other gentleman got much more notoriety. His name was James Naismith, and he invented basketball. And that's why the Basketball Hall of Fame is indeed in Springfield, Massachusetts. Picking up the cue, my dear friend, the late great Eddie Crow decided that Lockport should be the home of the Volleyball Hall of Fame. But sadly, he found out there was already a Volleyball Hall of Fame in California where they can play it 12 months a year. You're exactly right, Mr. Table Topics Master. So William Morgan got short shrift until 1965 when they came out with this huge episode of the Union Sun and Journal celebrating Lockport's centennial. And that's where I found out about William Morgan, our boy William, and how he invented volleyball. He is buried at Glenwood Cemetery. I talked to the manager of Glenwood Cemetery one day, and he told me that a busload of Japanese tourists showed up and they circled his grave and sang to it. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Well, I learned this morning that volleyball is something that also, like chicken wings, came from Western New York, spread worldwide to even
No,
Japanese people.
Springfield, to be fair,
Springfield, all right, well,
but the inventor indeed.
yes, inventor. There we go. He lived here in the city of Million.
He grew up
All right,
very.
I'm gonna go online, Zoom for the next person. Volleyball can be a sport in which everyone can rally. It can be heartwarming. Heartwarming is kind of the subject. I've seen this amongst children. I've seen it at Special Olympics. I've seen it in a lot of places. Katie, if you could unmute and use the topic of a heartwarming sports, doesn't have to be necessarily volleyball, but if it is, great. a heartwarming story that you've seen related to sports where people rally.
Thanks, Mr. Table Topics Master. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Our team, Eric is mentioning, is the Celtic team. We rally every Wednesday night. We've done this now for a couple of summers. I'm not a big volleyball fan. Don't like to get injured. I'm a klutz anyway. I've never been good at volleyball. I'm pretty short. Not that that's a problem. There are some amazing champions who are short volleyball players, but that doesn't tend to bode well for that sport. So I always joke that I rally the troops and I'm the team captain for the spectators. So we have a great time and we enjoy ourselves profusely. We have one more match next Wednesday night at 8:30. It's a later one. Feel free to come on out. And then the finals start for the following weeks. We're towards the bottom of the group, but we always have a good time. I'm not thinking sports then as much as the trip down memory lane with Tom Moran portraying William Morgan. And I don't know what year it was, but there we were with our group of Toastmasters for, I think it was Memorial Day. Maybe it was like a bicentennial, not bicentennial, because Dave just said bicentennial. It must have been a something special year. Old home Lockport days. And we went to where Tracy Farrell and Kevin McDonough live in that awesome circle and built a float as a Toastmasters club and then portrayed characters. And I was trying to remember what everyone did. So Tom carried his volleyball and had a YMCA t-shirt on. So he was William Morgan. So about a dozen of us portrayed people from Lockport or who had spoken in Lockport. Mike Florio, I think, was Lafayette, the explorer, the general who came for the Revolutionary War as an ally of America. I think Phil Russell was Teddy Roosevelt and Edna was Belva Lockwood and I was Joyce Carol Oates. She's a Gothic author who's still living, I think, and she's a professor at Yale, last I knew. Dave was some kind of a tavern owner, but I guess this has to turn into a speech since I've got the red light. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much. One of the things I remember, the one volleyball game I remember was we were playing an unfair matchup. The good team was not mine. And we were being crushed. I think it was 9-10 to nothing. And we began slowly but surely 3-9, 6-10, 11-4, 11-9. Like we started coming back. We started to rally, as they would say. Now a comeback victory is so sweet because the other team just lets off and they think that they've got it in the bag. So if you can think of a personal or even a Western New York comeback, that would be the subject for the next person. And I'm going to go ahead and ask for if Joe Budnick would like to come up and give us a speech on a comeback or rally victory, or again, anything you'd like. We'll talk about it. Joe.
Well, volleyball was the one sport I actually enjoyed. I hated sports. I was never into it. I hated phys ed class with a passion. No, I wasn't like one of those people, thank you, Margot, who would try to pretend you're sick to get out of it. No, I would just bite the bullet and go. However, I did enjoy volleyball. Volleyball was the one sport in school that I always did enjoy when we had phys ed. Whenever we had family reunions, when my cousins and I would get together, aunts and uncles, we would always in the backyard when we'd have the barbecues, put up the volleyball net, and that's what we would play. And it was always a lot of fun. So it was no rally, of course, when, playing sports in school. But if you want to ask me a comeback, I remember this one time we went outside for phys ed class and we were playing baseball. And of course, I'm horrible at sports. So I get up to the plate, I'm holding the bat. Everybody moves up the opposing team because they figure but they figure I'm going to, strike out because 99% of the time I usually did. Except this was the 1 percentile time when I actually smacked that thing all the way out to outfield. It served them all right. They ate crow. And I almost had a home run too. So, like I said, I did not like sports, but I'm a little more open-minded as far as sports goes these days. I do like to watch the Bills. I do like to watch the Sabres, and I do love the Olympics. Love to watch the Olympics whenever they're on. So like I said, volleyball was the one sport I actually did enjoy. I have some fond memories of it because whenever my relatives and I would get together, we'd have family picnics or get together. Always for years, we'd always put up the volleyball net and we would always have a good time. And I think that's really how we bonded. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I'm gonna go to timers report first. Len, how did our 3 speakers today on table topics do for time?
Again, Mr. Topic Master, I'm pleased to report all 3 of our table topics contestants qualified this morning. David at 2:10, Kate at 2:12, and Joe at 1:58. Thank you.
Our word master is gonna give her report. Oh, jeepers. Pronouns. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I'm proud to report that all 3 of our table topics contestants this morning used the word. Dave used it twice, Kate used it twice, and Joe used it once. So everyone used the word. Okay, so with that, go ahead and vote online. I believe that it comes up as a poll. It'll be coming up in a second. Here in-house, it looks like Sylvia is going to collect up the votes. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to our amazing Toastmaster, Eric. That's what's on, right? Yes, it is.
Thank you, Thomas, for all the great table topics questions. Now, before I forget who is here and who is online today, I completely forgot about that. Okay, well, join us next week, okay. Before I move on, I'd like to propose a toast. So everybody grab your mugs. To the inventor of volleyball, William Morgan, and to all the athletes who've done all the sports through the Olympics, high school, college, etc. Here's to everybody playing volleyball. All right, now we begin our speaking portion of the meeting. Our first speaker is Les Robinson, and his evaluator, who is running up to the lectern, is Margot Subitner. Margot.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Les, I hope I have the right evaluation form because Les is doing the active speaking portion. And so when he sent me that, I just did a search on the Toastmasters website. The purpose of this project is for a member to demonstrate his or her ability to listen to what others say. The challenge is, it says the note for the evaluator, the member completing this project is practicing active listening, and at the club meeting is to lead table topics. So Les, being a DTM, has obviously taken this to a different level. So I'm curious to see what he's going to do with it. But Les, if I do have the wrong evaluation form, let me know right up front and I'll do a slightly different evaluation. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Please help me in welcoming Les Robinson, why active listening is important. Les Robinson.
Margot did hit the top right. I looked at this project and I took it a different avenue, but I think the end result will be the same. Why is active listening important in everybody's day-to-day life? And one thing I learned in life is the more you listen, the more you can accomplish, the more you can get done, the more you're successful. if you walk in, unless you are the leader or you're running the organization or you're something of a person that needs to delegate, you have to talk. But as a leader and as a group, it's better to listen, intake the information, and then see what the path that you want to go. And active listening, as anybody knows, if you're in business, you're a family leader, whatever you do, when you listen, it's very important because you can get a better picture of the situation. And I was looking at this project, and I had an event in my life that just, I still think about it to this day. Couple months ago, I and my wife wanted to get a trailer. Well, more my wife. So she went out and said, I found the trailer I wanted. Great. I called them up and said, are you able to go to our campsite and pick the trailer up, evaluate it there and set it up and bring it? And they said, yes. I said, good. And this is our price point. We like to say, yeah, we can do for that. We've done all that. So I said, okay, Saturday morning, we will arrive and we will start the process of looking at the trailer and basically go from there. So my wife was all railing and exciting that she was going to get a new trailer. We did the financing over the phone, so we were good to go. And that's where I noticed the first problem. We're looking to get you out this Saturday in your new trailer. And I was like, okay. And I went to my wife and I said, do they understand that they're bringing our trailer in and they're going out to evaluate it and they're setting up? Oh yeah, that's what they told us. I said, okay, because I didn't get that from the financing department. And now we go to Saturday morning, we arrive. And the first thing they say, are you all excited about leaving today with a trailer? I said, well, yes, I am. And I looked at my wife again and I said, are we in a different world? And no, they're just all excited. Everybody's excited. I was like, okay. So I sit down and the salesperson introduces himself and I talk to the salesperson. And I said, very simple. You can go out to our campsite and bring our trailer in. You can give us a price, set it up. Otherwise, I don't want to go forward. Oh, no, we can do that. I said, okay. And the guy says, let's bring over the manager to reassure you. The manager came over and said the same thing. You know, we'll be happy to go out to your campsite, evaluate it. We'll bring it in. It's a win-win across the board. I'm like, okay, so far, everything's good. So we get in the golf cart to go look at our trailer that my wife previously looked at. And I said, I'm excited, you know, this kind of fits in our budget. We've done the financing, you know, the trade-in value, we're kind of all in the ballpark. So I'm kind of excited. And we get in the golf cart and we go and we go and we go. And all they're talking about is how exciting everybody is and how great this is and how they're here to help me. And I'm like, okay, all the razzmatazz. And we go to the trailer and I'm looking at this humongous trailer and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. My wife did good. I'm like, I said, honey, this is the trailer you picked out. My wife said, no. I'd like to show you. I'd like to show you this little larger trailer. So we go through it and it's got a big bed and I can stand up. And the thing turned out to be about $125,000. And it was more than my mortgage payment. I looked at the guy and he says, this is way out of budget. Don't worry about it. And I was like, why are you showing this? Oh, well, we may want this. So then we go to the next trailer. Same thing all over. This time I just get out and I said, sir, we talked about a different trailer. Oh, I'm trying to help you out. So then we go to the third trailer, which was the one my wife looked at. And I sat there and I went to the guy and I says, okay, this is the one we like. And he goes, yeah, you know, you can bring your trailer up and we'll evaluate it and then you can drive off. And I said, wait a minute, we have told you 4 times that you were going to get the trailer, you were going to get us the evaluation and set it up. So I basically looked at the guy and said, I'm done. I get in the golf cart and my wife is all nervous. She's like, well, I really like to get the trailer. I said, I'll give him one last chance. We'll look at the numbers and we'll go from there. So we sit down and he keeps telling me about bringing the trailer in and over. And I looked at the guy and I says, you know, I've talked to the finance department. I talked to you. I talked to the manager. And at the end of the day, no one's listened to me. And he goes, well, that's how it is. I go, why would you waste 2 hours of my life to look at a trailer? And the guy's like, well, let me bring the manager over. And the manager came over and I kind of said the same thing. And then I said, I've got one important question. You wasted 3 hours of my life. The three of us are all in sales. When somebody kind of gives you the parameters of what they want to do, you're pretty well across the line. And 4 people have come in from 4 salespeople, walked in, and 2 people bought trailers. I don't get this. I thanked them very much. And this is where I said, you 2 are in sales. I said, you should really understand active listening. Active listening makes you successful. You don't sit there and just tell the client what they want. So at the end of the day, active listening, if you want to be successful and you want people to appreciate what you do, very simple, listen and give them what they want and you will be a winner. That's why active listening is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Our second speaker this morning, who is online, is Tracy Farrell, and her evaluator is Nancy Ferry. Nancy.
Thanks, Mr. Toastmaster. Tracy is an experienced Toastmaster, as we all know. She is working in the Pathways project. I'm not sure which one. But my role today will be to listen for a great speech, which I always enjoy her great speeches, and I'm looking forward to that. I will look for a speech that includes an introduction, a body, conclusion, and just an overall fantastic delivery. Tracy, Mr. Toastmaster, do you have her title?
I forgot the title. I know you have.
I have her title, Paradigm Shifts.
Thank you. Tracy, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. A paradigm shift. What is it? Well, really, it's a bit of change. And I'm going to give you a story to illustrate it. In the late 19th century, Carl Benz is widely regarded as the man that invented the gas-driven automobile. And when he was asked to predict the ultimate size of this market, he confidently predicted that there was going to be as many as 20,000 cars on the road. Well, we all know today that there's over 750 million cars on the road, and that number is expected to increase triple, in fact, over the next 30 years. So he was a little bit out of touch. But how did he arrive at that figure? Well, it's quite simple. 20,000 was the maximum number of people he thought would be able to be trained as chauffeurs. We can all laugh at that now, but Carl Benz wasn't an ignorant man. And on the contrary, he was really quite brilliant. And in his world, anyone who could afford to buy an automobile wouldn't be caught dead driving it. He'd use a chauffeur. So his calculation was based on sound logic. His belief system was that it was the number of chauffeurs that could be trained, and that was a paradigm shift. So a paradigm shift is so fundamental, so massive, and so radical that it creates an entirely new situation previously thought impossible. In the past, we've had the invention of the printing press, we have the telephone, and we all recognize the difference that the internet's made for us. So I'll admit this scenario might be a little bit dramatic, but when the city went to yearly assessments, it caused a lot of people to have a public meltdown. This is despite the fact then not much really changed in most people's tax bills. Instead of reporting at 67%, we're now reporting at 100%. In fact, there's a lot of good advantages to assessing at 100%. Everyone really understands when they're being assessed at the full market value or 100%. But previously, those assessments were reported at a percentage rate. And even though that assessment had stayed the same for 10 years, the equalization rate dropped, meaning their value increased. So, okay, most of you are saying, what in the world is she talking about? And that's just the point. Nobody understood the previous system. And whether we like those assessments or not, we understand when you get a tax bill at 100%. Another advantage is by keeping assessments up to date, we're being a lot more equitable. Everybody knows that in the last couple of years, values went crazy. And one example might be keeping it equitable, might be in the past, swimming pools in our area were always a detraction to sales. And that's because nobody really wanted to maintain them, the cost and the time to do so. But during COVID, when nobody could leave their house, that was the hottest commodity because nobody could leave their house and it gave them something to do. So if we do yearly assessments, that keeps everything up to date and our assessments were able to react with the market. And probably the biggest advantage of yearly assessments is that we'll be able to keep the tax rates low. So none of these really address the crux of the problem. Change is hard in the beginning. We've gone through the initial stage of that, and it was painful for me and for the city. So people have a hard time understanding that just because your assessment went up doesn't mean your taxes went up. And that's because, just like in the example I gave at the beginning of the speech, it really doesn't seem to be logical. So how does the city go through and accept this change? Well, in my opinion, we need to do a lot more public education, but that gets a little bit messy. Last year, I did a couple of in-person sessions. Nobody showed up, so that was a bust. Then I put some postings on the website and our Facebook page, and I thought I was being really helpful to the public explaining the process. But what I really quickly learned is that people have no filter or no shame when they post information anonymously on Facebook. And when one person starts sounding off, that gives free license for the other 554 people to post and repost more false information. Actually, the only good thing that we got was some positive articles from the Union Sun and Journal and the Niagara Gazette. But that reporter's now been fired also. So the change this year is we're going to take a little bit quieter approach. We're going to still send out our required postings and letters, and with the exception of a little bit more explanation. We'll also provide a lot easier access to our public information and our public records. And finally, we're going to ensure that our staff is well-trained and informed in all aspects of this project so they can further communicate it to the public in a courteous manner. In the end, I'm sure taxes are never going to be a subject that people want to hear about or get excited about, but it's my hope that we'll be able to understand the project. And these assessment projects really are a more fair and equitable process of distributing taxes. Because we all know growth is painful, change is painful, but nothing is as painful as being stuck in the same place. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tracy. Our final speaker this morning, and she is doing her speech online, is Jen Zapla. And her evaluator is Ryan Flory. Is Ryan online today?
I am.
All right. Listen to that deep voice. I love it. Ryan, could you please explain what Jen's going to be speaking on today?
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. This morning, I will be evaluating Jen Zappala on her speech. It is a 5 to 7 minute speech from Pathways. The goal today is for her to identify her cultural identities and stereotypes that impact others' perceptions of her. I do have the title. Would you like me to do the introduction, Mr. Toastmaster?
Please do.
That I can do. This morning, Jen Zappala, 5 to 7 minutes. Who am I? Jen Zappala, who am I?
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. This topic brought many things to mind for me when I first started thinking about it. And maybe that idea of cultural differences brings a lot of things to mind for you as well. I thought a lot about my own experiences, and I thought a lot about the experiences of people that I know, friends, family, coworkers. I thought a lot about the differences and the changes in our communities and in our own culture, all of the shifts that have taken place in my lifetime around the world. But the question comes down to, who do you think I am, fellow Toastmasters? So think about it for a minute, because I'm sure that you all have your own perceptions of me, some of which might be true and some of which may not be. If you ever really want to know who people think you are, though, I can tell you how to find out. Take yourself down to Lilydale and go see a psychic, because they will believe that you are the common denominator of all things. Now, I have done this before, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that experience went. I sat down with the psychic and she said to me, "Now I sense that you have a very strong fatherly figure in your life. You're really close to your dad, weren't you?" "No." "Well, then another male figure, perhaps." "No, but I have a lot of strong female figures in my life." "That's not it. Now I sense that you're planning to go to a wedding come fall." "Nope, I don't have any weddings to go to this year. None of my friends are getting married. They're all single." "Okay. Well, but you really love children." "Absolutely not, lady. I can't stand them." And about at this point, she said to me, "I think our wires have gotten crossed, so I'm just going to let you go now." And she refunded my money and I walked out. So yes, I've been kicked out of a psychic's because I am not necessarily what people expect. The woman thought that I was your stereotypical straight white woman, that I came from a normal middle-class family, probably had a suburban upbringing, that all of my friends are in the process of coupling off and having families, and that I have no other desire than to do exactly those same things. Of course, for those of you who know me hopefully a little bit better, that is not at all who I am. And although some of those things about me are true, there's a lot more nuance to it than that. So let me tell you what I feel most judged by people. When people look at me, I think what they first see, especially initially, but even sometimes beyond that, is my rather diminutive stature. And as a result of how I look, they typically see me as very harmless, non-threatening. In fact, I have less presence than a ghost in a security line. I can walk through without a second glance. I have actually gotten into a Buffalo Bills game without a ticket. That's how little presence I have. People don't see me in crowds, in groups, and I have used that to my advantage on more than one occasion because it's not the worst thing in the world. However, there are some downsides to that view of me. People think I'm weak. They think I'm physically weak. They think I'm mentally weak, particularly before I open my mouth. And it's sort of difficult to deal with at times, or frustrating. It feels degrading or offensive. If I lift something heavy, it's never gone unnoted. People make jokes about it, or they act like they're surprised or how impressive it is that I can lift an object. And it really is sort of silly to think that because I'm short and small, that I don't have physical capabilities. It can be frustrating. In jobs, it can be frustrating too. I have to actually prove myself often, especially if they haven't heard me speak or had the opportunity. People don't take me seriously. I don't command presence when I come into a room because of my size. And it can be very frustrating. I think Toastmasters has helped me a lot in terms of my judgments of others. And the biggest reason is because of evaluations. When you evaluate someone, you can't just rely on your perceptions. You actually have to sit back and listen to what people are saying. You have to look at them non-judgmentally and take it all in. And that is really eye-opening when you start doing it. I want to share a little story with you about some of my past maybe judginess. I had an experience at work one time where I was new to a role and I had reached out to several people. They had all routed me to one particular person. And I reached out to this person and I said, can you help me with this task I need to complete? And her response over messaging was, I'm busy. I have to be honest, I was pretty offended. I thought it was quite rude. And I really wasn't sure what to do. I had already asked everyone I possibly could. And so I was stewing over it and thinking what a horrible person this person was. And she came back to me about an hour later and said, okay, I'm free now, and spent the next hour like very patiently walking me through everything I needed to do. Now, working for a global company has given me a lot of eye-opening experiences to see a variety of diversity. It's fun to be the only Jen in the room. There's lots of unique names. People are coming from different places. They're working different hours. And what I've learned from that experience is to have less expectations, to judge people less by how they speak and what they say, because ultimately people want to be understood. People want to help one another and they want to accomplish things. I think mostly we have similar goals, and those cultural differences and personality differences, they can be barriers to helping us accomplish those things. But ultimately, if we sit back and we look at things through that Toastmasters lens, look at things non-judgmentally and take them in that moment at that value, the world starts to look a lot different and actually a lot more rosy. So fellow Toastmasters, I'm not sure who you think I am, but I hope that you'll get to know me over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Len, could I have a timers report, please?
You may indeed, Mr. Toastmaster. I'm pleased to report all three speakers qualified. Les at 6:48, Tracy at 6:45, and Jen squeezed it in, 7:28, making it with the buffer. Mr. Toastmaster.
So please cast your vote for Les, Tracy, or Jen, and Sylvia will be coming around to collect the ballots. And online folks, please send your responses to Len in a private message. Now, as Sylvia collects the ballots, I forgot to mention a movie reference that had a volleyball in it. And I know some of you may know who it is. Was Top Gun, yes, but there was another one. It starred Tom Hanks. What was the movie called? No.
Joe versus the volcano.
It was Castaway.
Oh, Castaway.
Let me guess, Nancy, was the movie boring or long? Both? All right, let's go on to our evaluators. Our first evaluator, evaluating Les, is Margot Sue Bittner. Was all clapped for Margot?
At this point, who knows? Anyway, listen, my friends, and you shall hear my evaluation of Les this year. You know, I had to figure in my little poem here. So this was an educational topic, active listening. And Les talked about a lot of issues. He addressed the topic as he saw fit, which is sometimes we as DTMs tend to do. We tend to sort of take Toastmasters and make it what we want it to be. But first thing he did was set the stage. He answered my question, but then he asked some questions. And as he set the stage, he made sure his pace was measured, much more measured than mine usually is. And he made eye contact with us. In other words, he looked at the camera, which was one thing he did throughout it. A few times when he was thinking, he looked around, which made me wish he was in the room because it would have been great to see that interaction with us. The other thing he did to set the stage was he gave us his philosophy on active listening and why this topic is important. So again, he set the stage in a way that we could all relate to. And I'm going to jump right into improvements that I could like to see. Number one, check the form. I know Pathways is different. It's got some very unusual ways of addressing some of the topics. And so I would suggest that all of us, myself included, read what we're supposed to do. I'd like to also, there's an R for you. I'd also like to suggest a little more vocal variety. This was a story with characters. How about some voices? How about some different facial expressions to show, you know, what did the salesman stand like? And your wife, just something to sort of punch it up a little bit to make your story move. The other thing, I know it's a personal story, and when we get involved in our stories, we don't always practice it because we think we know it. But if you don't practice it enough, you have you knows, basically, and all kinds of odd phrases in there. So you have energized us, though, Les, to follow your lead, to use storytelling as a teaching tool. And as we rally around you, we will always learn from the master. So listen, education, set, to energize, rally, Lester, the whole package. Mr. Toastmaster.
Next up to the mound is Nancy Ferry, evaluating Tracy's speech.
Volleyballs have volleyball courts don't have mounds. You're talking baseball and it's volleyball, and I don't know anything about sports. All right, I have the pleasure of evaluating Tracy Farrell. I would like to say that I saw and heard in your speech sincerity. You maintained eye contact appropriately with while you were glancing at your computer and your notes, but it wasn't this kind of thing. You really just kind of moved your eyes, looked at your notes. It was very well done. You communicated with enthusiasm. Your topic was wonderful. Your introduction was great. It was a great example of a paradigm shift. And then you moved into, once you described what a paradigm shift was, then you moved into the topic of what your paradigm shift, the speech was. And you affirmed the audience twice when you said, at one point you said, okay, what am I talking about? You felt like you may have been losing the audience because you were talking about taxes, and that might take some people like off into dreamland somewhere. So you called them back. You said, okay. And then you very gently explained it and clarified the ways of thinking about a paradigm. And at the end, you affirmed that the worst kind of the worst kind of pain was to be stuck. and not move anywhere. Your voice was excellent. We could follow you, especially the topic may not have been familiar to everyone. Your purpose was clear, and I think that you achieved it. How I think you could improve would be to complete the goal online so that the evaluator has that. Maybe use a few gestures, just some hand gestures. All in all, you adapted to the audience. You didn't disappoint us. It was a great speech, well rehearsed, and you knew your topic. And I appreciated evaluating you.
Last but not least, Ryan Flory is our third evaluator, evaluating Jen Zapla's speech. Ryan, the Zoom lectern is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Jen this morning. My evaluation, I'm going to try not to make it sound like two pieces of Texas toast with bologna in the middle, but honestly, I think Jen did a fantastic job here, so I'm going to point out what I can, and then be a little bit nitpicky so I can come up with some creative criticism for the next time. Really opening the speech, poising the question back to us as the audience, allowed us to have a moment to reflect on who we think you are. I think it's a great way to start a speech where you're relating back your background and cultural story, because it allows us to start with our own preconceived notions at front of mind, and then you can fill in the gaps and make the edits in our own stories that we've created throughout your speech. Facial expressions, vocal variety, both fantastic. Your eye contact was wonderful. The only thing that I would say here is news anchors have a freeze frame effect when you're seeing them on TV, right? Because they're staring one direction into the camera. They cheat and they have 5 cameras, so they're always changing the angles at which they're speaking to get a little bit more interaction with their audiences. But with us as Toastmasters, especially on the Zoom format, it can help to, even if you're looking off screen just for a moment, it draws the audience in because they're seeing that frame change, which draws our attention and focus back. So your eye contact was almost too good. So I told you I was going to get nitpicky. Your gestures did fall a little bit outside. I saw your hands come up just slightly, but it was always just the fingertips or just the top of the hand. So make sure that when we're using the video screen, we can get the full impact, whether it's backing off and coming in or just bringing them into the screen more intentionally. And then I would say that the only other piece that I would challenge you to do is in rehearsing, just try to get that speech back down into that 6-minute range to be more flexible in the event you have to run over. You can use that buffer rather than having the base speech nearly break the buffer. Otherwise, they were relatable conversations you were having with us. They were stories that humanized the topic and got us engaged and thinking about it. And again, fantastic job today, Jen. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ryan. Can I get a final timers report, please, on our evaluators? Len?
Thanks, Eric. I'm pleased to report. Time is on our side this morning. Yes, it is. Margot, 2:23 qualified, Nancy, 2:25, and Ryan at 2:32. I'll post an online poll. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for the Rolling Stones reference, Len. Somehow I knew that song. All right, Sylvia will be coming along to collect the ballots for our evaluators. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our general evaluator live from North Carolina is David Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And thank you for rallying the troops as Toastmaster of the Day. I think you did a great job. You had a good subject, even though some of us don't know anything about volleyball, myself included. Only thing I know about volleyball is recently, my older daughter went to Florida State University, and your hands are up. Phil, you dancing?
May I tell you about volleyball?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. I saw several comments about people that know nothing about volleyball. When you go into physical education, you get an education. And volleyball was started because basketball was very, very fast at the time. It was growing and getting faster and faster. They took the bottom out of the basket, and so it was faster and faster. One important thing was they wanted to slow down for senior citizens. So they said, why don't we put this net up in the middle and we'll throw it back and forth? So it was supposed to be for seniors, very sedate. Now it has evolved into this power volleyball game that is more dynamic than basketball, but it was intended to slow things down for senior citizens so they could do it. But it turned into what it is today. Got it?
Got it. I hate to see a senior citizen getting spiked with one of the balls. That would...
It happened.
But my experience was my older daughter went to Florida State University, and recently, just by chance, I was watching on ESPN College or whatever. It was the world champions for women's beach volleyball, and it happened to be Florida State and University of Southern California. And as I was watching, Florida State won the match, and I was like, they won, yay! But it turned out there's like 10 other matches going on. It's very complicated, so I got bored and got out of it. So that was my experience with volleyball. But thank you, Eric, for your subject and running the meeting so well. I love the way that you all do hybrid. It works out well. I could sit there and I could watch Dave during table topics raise his hand like a fifth grader, which was very entertaining. And that's why he did it, is to entertain us. But we on Zoom could also see him do it. And finally, all three of our evaluators did great. They did the sandwich approach. They gave feedback, said what they did well and room for improvement and even some challenges. And with that, I don't really have a lot. I can do the roles if you'd like me to, Eric.
Whatever you do is fine with me, Dave. Go
All right, I'll
for
do
it.
the roles and then hand it back over to you. So get ready. So first up is our word master, Mike Licata. How do we do with the word rally? Rally. I said it 4 times.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. The word actually was fairly strong even later in the meeting. You yourself used it once, Beth used it once, Marty used it twice. Les used it during his speech as well, but Thomas takes the crown today. He used it 6 times.
Whoa.
That's our word report for the day. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Wow, that's awesome. Steve Smith, I just gave you an as grammarian. Do you want to give your report? I keep my mic open as if I'm in the lecture until he gets, there we go.
I listened intently throughout the entire meeting, had a paper in front of me, ready to grab anything. I found nothing. Nothing jumped out at me as being exceptional. Nothing jumped out at me as being bad. I suppose that means we did good today. There's some bad grammar for you. We did well today. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Grammarian. And finally, Sylvia Baptiste, our master, or however you say it.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Today I heard a few so's, not as many as other days. Only one. Was the winner of the day. It was like giving people time to think of what their next word was going to be. A few ands, a lot of you knows, you know. That I always just told that was a Niagara Falls thing, you know. Everyone says it's a Western New York thing. Okay. Was like a filler, was like a connector, not a filler, but connecting the words together today. I heard a lot of that. And basically, that was a new one for me. So that is as Edna would say, that is my report today.
Thank you, Madam Master. And you mentioned you thought it came from, one of the phrases comes from Niagara Falls. Before I met A.M. Lockport, the only thing I knew about Niagara Falls growing up was Three Stooges, Slowly I Step. I think it was Three Stooges. That was the only reference I had. And with that, I'll turn it back to our Toastmaster. I believe we have quiz masters and stuff, but I don't know if I do those or Toastmaster does it. So I'll turn it back over to Mr. Eric.
What were you doing, David?
I was done with the roles, that I didn't know if you wanted to call quiz master or if that was my role, but you're there, so.
Sure, I will go along with the rest. Thank you, David. and Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Jackie, are you waiting for quiz? Please help me welcome Jackie Kenny to be quizzed on. Welcome.
We had a little guest this morning. Does anybody remember her name? Very good. What was Eric doing yesterday evening and where?
Oh, he was at Calhoun's Pub playing for the Celtic volleyball team.
Very good. Nobody knew that but Dave, huh?
I think we all knew what we did there.
And the inventor of volleyball.
Morgan.
Thank you. Next week, I'll bring a picture of all of our interpreters from the Old Home Week Parade of 2010. And you can see what everybody looked like if you weren't there at the time. The original name for volleyball, according to Dave's notes. Anybody remember that one?
Mintonette.
Thank you.
My wife's sister.
And how many cars were predicted to be on the road? Wasn't that amazing? I love those little factoids. We also heard who the inventor of basketball was today. Does anyone remember that one? Thank you. And what was the hottest commodity in homes because of the COVID pandemic?
Swimming pool.
Very good. All right, everyone was listening this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Beth, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. Beth, our tech and gesture master.
Sorry about that. I think we had some good gestures today. I didn't see fantastic gestures today. I did like Thomas's passing it over to Eric. That was cute. I like that. Good. I would only make a suggestion for Tracy that she might want to shift her camera down just a little to catch the hand gestures more, because it was difficult to see the hand gestures. Something we all have to think about when we're on Zoom is that Len, of course, again, lost the connection, so you had to fix it during Tracy's speech. I don't know how this works that we lose the video but not the audio, but it did allow her to keep going with her speech and we could hear her. So that was very good. I thought I really enjoyed that. I definitely understand Jen's how people perceive her when you are diminutive. One year at the festival, I was walking around with one of my former students who's a volunteer, and we wear lanyards, and a gentleman came up to me and he read my lanyard and he said, "It says you're the festival director." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Of the whole thing?" And I said, "Yes." No, of the whole thing." And I said, "Yes," again, and walked away. My former student, I thought she was gonna slug the guy. He had so much nerve. How can he think that you can't run this? Of course you can run this. And she went on and on. But that man definitely had his own perceptions about who should run things. And it wasn't this short little lady. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Oh, boy. All right. Ma'am, the officer, duh.
Yeah.
What you gonna do with that extra half hour?
I don't know, Dave, you gonna give us some jokes?
Real slow.
Like this. Okay. We have winners. Please join us in congratulating Joe Budnick as our table topic speaker. Yep. Our best evaluator today is Ryan Flory. Congratulations, Ryan. And our best speaker of the day is Tracy Farrell. Congratulations to Tracy. All right, ma'am, presiding officer, would you like to call out the numbers?
I will call out the number.
Winner
Steve
gets,
is giving me a look of, make it me.
and the winner gets $6.
Okay. Last three numbers are 4, 5, 1.
Beth won. All right, congratulations, Beth. All right, next week's Toastmaster is Nancy Rose. She'll be giving the reins for that. So, ma'am, presiding officer, you may.
I will finish up the meeting here. Eric has done this so many times, he doesn't want to give it up. I was gonna ask our guest Maya how things went today and what her response was to the meeting, but she left the building. She's not here. Closing announcements. Other than what we've already heard today, are there any? One thing I would like to say is Tracy Farrell. I would love for you to get to the Wilson assessor and get that speech in front of the Wilson Town Board. I don't think Wilson has had a reassessment since I think 1997. It's a dirty word to the Wilson Town Board. Needless to say, things are very out of whack there. So what do you think, Tracy? Okay, does she? All right. Reminder of Eric with his Chalk Fest next Saturday. This Saturday, Wilson Star Search. Meteor showers in addition. So I'll bring a blanket to just lay on the ground and look up. Where at? Calvin Kruger Park, 350 Ontario Street, Wilson, also known as Route 18. Just around the curve from our house. So I think that is it. Do we have anything else to do?
I have a quick announcement. This is Kate online.
Okay.
We often have a summer picnic, but if anybody was curious, we're going to opt out of a summer picnic and look to the fall. So that might be coming up in the fall to be determined. And it looks like there's a tiny guest. We have another tiny guest. Isabella's on Zoom with Ryan. I'm not sure if she wants to share what she thought about, Dad's eval. Okay.
No.
Thanks, Jill.
Well, at least she's not crying.
Oh, we had a baby.
Aww.
Gonna get the Emmy.
Yeah. The Emmy for Zoom meetings, hybrid Zoom meetings. Well, with that, I will close the meeting and see everybody next week.
Hey, Nancy, do you need help for next week or do you have a theme decided yet?
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, am I just talking to you?
No, the others might be able to hear us, but they're all chatting in person.
Okay, well, I do have a theme and it's called, I thought of it last night. Just in quotes, like different categories, like inspirational, success, things like that. And I've never been Toastmaster, but I ran a lot of meetings, so I'm going to give it a whirl.
You'll do great. So the theme is like inspirational quotes, or?
Yeah, should I just tell them right now because there's plenty in the room?
Sure. Len, can you hear us? Or Eric, could you hear that?
What's that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We turn off the TV.
Okay. So anyway, I do have a quote for next week for everybody there, and it's inspirational quotes, anything. So I'm going to ask for participants. I've never been Toastmaster, but I've run a lot of meetings. So I'm going to give it a whirls, but I am asking for participants. So if people can think of fun quotes, I'm going to ask them.
All right.
So the theme is
And I'll
inspirational
put that in.
quotes.
Yeah, like it can be success or just happiness or positivity, anything you want, anything that gets you up and moving. So I'll put it in the email.
That's right. That's right up my alley.
Oh, good. So will you participate for me? Because I might call on you.
I'm at work next week.
Oh, no. Oh, but you'll be there. Maybe.
I'll be popping in just, as a spectator, but unfortunately I can't do a job role next week.
I'm going to follow your lead today because I took a lot of notes in my head. And I'm just
All right.
like,
Well,
let it roll.
If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me.
I'm going to be running to Kate, running to Dave, running to
You'll be great.
Jackie.
See you next week, everybody.
All right, see you, Kate.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.